Did. And on November 6th, one of them went into the woods for what he thought was going to be a job interview, but instead turned into attempted murder.
He turned to see a gun pointed at his head. He deflected the gun and ran. As he was running from the gunman, he was shot in the arm.
He survived and went to the police, who 9 days later found a body in a shallow grave not far away. The next day, they arrested both Rich Beasley and Brogan Rafferty. And then, on November 25th, police found 2 more bodies. When you heard a month or so later that people who did go for those interviews apparently got shot and killed,
right?
What did you think?
I thought, oh boy, this could have been me.
It is yet another headline-generating crime spree linked to Craigslist, which has been used by rapists, robbers, and the original so-called Craigslist killer, Philip Markoff, the medical resident who shot a masseuse he met over Craigslist.
Fortunately, Craigslist is just opportune for bad guys because you can be anonymous. I'm not sure it's Craigslist's fault because it's the nature of what they do.
If these latest allegations turn out to be true, there are open questions about whether Rich Beasley sucked his 16-year-old friend into some sort of sick criminal apprenticeship, reminiscent of the D.C. sniper John Allen Muhammad, who carried out his killings with his young sidekick Lee Boyd Malvo.
He would have had to have convinced the 16-year-old that what they were doing had some point or purpose. You can call it brainwashing, you can call it whatever you might. But looking at the D.C. sniper case, I interviewed Lee Boyd Malvo, and you could tell in the early days that he just worshipped the ground that Muhammad walked on.
Rich Beasley's attorney says her client is innocent, but Brogan Rafferty's parents are not buying it. In this exclusive audio interview, Brogan's father told ABC News his son may have gone along with the plan because Beasley threatened him and his family.
I think that he probably didn't realize what he was involved in until it was too late and over his head, and that he was in fear for his life and the lives of people that he loved.
Brogan's mother told me her son will have to pay for his decision to hang around with the wrong person.
I believe he put his trust in someone, and he's a very smart kid, but sometimes when you're not seeing the whole picture, you just believe what's, you know, that person is going to lead you in the right way or whatever. I have the pain for these families and what my son's going through every day. And he has to live with this the rest of his life.
Does he think about that?
Oh, I know he does.
Brogan Rafferty now sits in juvenile detention. In a letter home, Brogan tells his family he fears that when he finally gets out, everybody he knows and loves will be dead.
He'll pay for his bad decision, but hopefully America and the jury will see that he was just a scared little boy.
Both Brogan Rafferty and Richard Beasley were later convicted on 3 counts of murder along with other charges. Rafferty was sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole. Beasley was sentenced to death. As of 2014, both men are appealing. I'm John Quinones. Please join us next time for another edition of 2020 on ID.
After being taken off life support, he died on Valentine's Day.
He will be deeply missed by all who knew and loved him.
At first blush, another senseless school shooting quickly struck a nerve. Many in the gay community called it a hate crime. Talk show host Ellen DeGeneres took it personally and then took it national.
A boy has been killed and a number of lives have been ruined. And somewhere along the line, the killer, Brandon, got the message that it's so threatening and so awful and so horrific that Larry would want to be his Valentine, that killing Larry seemed to be the right thing to do.
Though he was barely 14, Brandon McInerney was immediately charged as an adult with first-degree murder and a hate crime.
I believe the DA thought there are certain crimes that are so heinous and so egregious that it's not appropriate to deal with them in juvenile court.
Hi, extension 143, please.
Reporter Zeke Barlow has followed every twist of the story since the day it happened for the Ventura County Star.
Junior high is an awful time for you. It's an awful time, especially if you're abused. It's an awful time if you're young and gay and coming out.
But what may have started as a case of schoolyard bullying could land Brandon in jail for the rest of his life.
It took 3 long years to bring Brandon's case to trial, and as it got underway in July 2011, his brother James made an emotional public statement.
2 kids are basically losing their lives. It sucks, you know? Like, I'm sorry for Larry King's family as well. Like, I feel so sorry for them, but at the same time, I want to have my brother back. I don't know, it just sucks.
James says his brother never got in trouble. He was a smart kid, a young Marine, all wasted in a violent home torn apart by drugs.
Brandon's defense called you a bad mother in the courtroom. Is that fair?
What? I'm an addict.
Kendra McInerney is Brandon's mom. She says she was addicted to crystal meth while pregnant with Brandon. When he was 7, she was so strung out, she says, she sent Brandon to live with his father, who was an addict too.
He was beating him badly.
He used to beat the crap out of us all the time. If he had a bad day, he took it out on us, you know.
It's just the way his dad was treating him, and that he, broke his nose on 4th of July.
Brandon's father's drug-fueled rages reportedly got worse and worse in the weeks leading up to Larry's shooting.
And was taking it out on Brandon.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
During that same period, Brandon, the honor student, stopped turning in homework and was moved into Don Boldrin's remedial 8th grade English class because he'd fallen so far behind.
He showed up in my classroom with no pencil, no paper, no backpack, nothing. He just showed up. And that was the first day, and I said, that's not going to cut it.
You could see that Brandon was a kid in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
At first glance, these 2 boys appeared to have nothing in common, but Zeke Barlow says the victim and his assailant were surprisingly similar.
There were reports that Larry has been abused as well, and then the abuse that Brandon suffered was well documented through the courtroom. It was very different avenues they were on, and it was this awful intersection that they met.
At Brandon's trial, classmates testified Larry seemed to be stuck in a vicious cycle of getting bullied and then striking back.
Mainly just call him names, gay or fag.
These are audio recordings of students' testimony from inside the courtroom.
I seen him chase my friend Jesus into the bathroom, but that was just because my friend made a remark against him, saying that, he sniffed the air and he said, I smell queer,
But just who was bullying whom? Brandon's defense lawyer made a controversial accusation in court that Larry was not only the victim of bullying, but that he'd bullied Brandon right back.
On a daily basis, Larry King was sexually harassing Brandon McInerney, and no grown-up did anything about it.
Can you help explain, though, how a 5'1", effeminate boy can bully a stronger, bigger, strapping athlete?
He was chasing boys around school with his heels. He was touching himself. He was doing things that are sexual in nature that you and I would look at an adult and say, that is inappropriate.
However inappropriate, friends say it was Larry's only way of fighting back.
Do you think Larry was sexually harassing the straight boys?
I wouldn't call it sexually harassing.
Was he bullying the straight boys?
He would bully them in revenge, is what he would not just do it for no reason. He always did it after they made him cry.
So do you think Larry was using his sexuality as a weapon?
I think Larry was not using his sexuality as a weapon, but as a shield.
But nothing could shield Brandon McInerney from Larry's
murder case. A tale of 2 boys. One, a star athlete. The other sometimes wore heels and makeup to class.
They would tease him 24/7. They would beat up on him.
A perfect storm that exploded with a drawn gun. Did a schoolyard crush result in gay panic in the 8th grade? If you were on the jury, what would you decide? And why are some of them wearing wristbands with the killer's name on it? Classroom crush. And a popular teen and a seemingly safe older mentor.
You want them hanging around a chaplain and going to church and helping people. It was a no-brainer.
But was this self-proclaimed man of God teaching murder? An internet ad. 3 missing men.
Breaking news, a man's body's found buried in a shallow grave.
And parents trying to put the pieces together.
I think that he was in fear for his life.
And there is a monster here, but it's not my son.